number one.
My turn for number
2.
2. I will tell you what number 2 is.
Okay.
I think you may like this one. It's a classic film called Casablanca. Have you seen it?
It's my number 1.
Casablanca is your number 1?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, you're probably dying to know what my number 1 is then.
I am.
Okay, hang on a second. Hang on.
I love Casablanca.
Oh, me too. This has some of my favorite movie quotes.
Yes.
One of my very favorite, like, there's obviously the classic line of, go and take a drink and here's looking at you, kid.
Yeah.
Or,
Of all the
Well, can I
gin
s-
joints.
can I say what my favorite line is?
Yes, you can.
You despise me, don't you? Well, if I gave it any thought, I probably would. That's my
I
favorite
love that
line. of the
line,
movie.
yes.
What's your favorite line? All the gin joints and all
Well,
that.
I'm just saying that's one of
Shit
the...
came into mind.
Yeah. I think your one would actually be my favorite one.
This is also set during World War II.
Yes, it is.
Humphrey Bogart plays. He owns a gin joint. That's basically what he is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's a bit of a brood himself. Some of the very best leading men in romantic films are. And he does have a bit of a past. I guess he never really got over this one particular relationship. That seems to be why he's in the state he is.
Yeah.
And little simple plot twist. In walks Ingrid Bergman's character, who's she's
beautiful.
she's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen.
Yes, I would agree.
She is an old love from before the war,
Yes.
and her walking into his gin joint with her fella.
Who's the leader of resistance?
Yes, who's the leader of resistance. That sort of brings up a lot of stuff, and this is something that's been repeated a lot, where a woman comes back into the man's life and she's got a fella,
Yeah.
and so that raises a lot of emotions. But I think it's this is one's the easiest to identify with. Like
Yeah.
he can kind of feel his, if not pain, his sort of resentment towards her. Yet he still loves her. And he has to make some decisions toward the end of this, where as far as the war is concerned.
Because up until this point, he has maintained that he's completely neutral until you learn his backstory.
Yeah. Tanya. That's Richard's chair.
Yeah.
So yeah, go on, piss on it. Yeah, this was number 1 for a while. I've replaced it.
Excellent.
This is a classic. This is regarded as one of the best movies of all time.
It's usually
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually up in the top 5 or 6. Usually.
Oh, I know. And this is your number 1
This is
for.
my number 1.
Okay. So the only mystery now is, do you have anything to add to Casablanca other than the fact that it's one of the greatest ever?
I don't know. It's one
it's
of the greatest ever.
Yeah, it's like acting's fantastic, but
Yeah.
it's the writing for me.
It's the writing. Yeah.
Just the things they say to each other.
The dialogue is amazing.
Yeah. The only mystery now is what my number 1 is and what your number 2 is. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Brokeback Mountain.
This was number 11 or 12. Yeah.
I love Brokeback
I do too, and tell me what it's about.
Mountain. It's directed by Ang Lee.
Surprise, surprise!
Surprise. Okay, it's based on a short story by Annie Proulx.
I don't know her name.
I don't know how to pronounce her last name properly. Okay, it starts in 1963, where we meet the 2 main characters, Ennis Delmar, played by the late Heath Ledger, and may he rest in peace, and a rodeo cowboy named Jack Twist, played by Gyllenhaal. They take work herding sheep on Brokeback Mountain. They stay up there for a few months, and they're completely alone. And they form this bond, which develops into something more.
Something more.
And until one night they have a encounter.
The passion sort of. That's how I would describe it.
And then they part ways. The love story takes place over
A few
couple
decades. Yeah.
They end up getting together a couple of times over the next couple of decades. that they're trying to hide from people because this is the 60s and being gay is very much frowned upon. And as they're trying to hide it from them, the people around them, it turns out to be a devastating love affair. Beautiful and devastating.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful movie. It's
I know.
a beautiful movie.
The look of the movie
The
is
look of
one
the movie.
beautiful aspect,
Yes.
but it's also just a love story. It's very
Yeah.
beautiful.
And it's a love story.
It is a love story. It being between two men is obviously something people have found difficult to
Yeah.
respond to.
The
I didn't have
good
any difficulty.
No.
Because there's two human beings who have fallen in love,
Yeah.
and it's a very passionate love affair that
Yes.
they're having. And one thing that I want to bring up is that they do go their separate ways. They
Yes.
live separate lives, almost parallel lives.
Basically.
They marry women,
Yes.
and at the very start, after the first time that, Jake Gyllenhaal says, "I am not a homosexual." He
Yeah.
makes it very clear.
Yes.
And he says, and Heath Ledger says, "Neither am I." And what makes this movie almost universally appealing is it could be a man or it could be a woman.
Yeah.
This could be two women. This could be a man and a woman. This is another thing about the point I made earlier, that love doesn't know any bounds.
Exactly.
Because if they don't really know what it is that they have.
I really enjoy the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal is kind of, he accepts it. He's like, I love you, and I accept
That's
it.
true.
And Heath Ledger's character is like, I love you, but I can't.
Yeah, and that's something else. Like, it's not one of those movies where they're both gloomy,
Yeah.
or that they don't have the same approach.
The ending. Oh,
The ending's tragic.
The ending gets me every time.
Did you cry?
I cry every time.
I was very close to tears as well.
There's the ending, but then there's the ending afterwards where Heath Ledger's the daughter comes in,
Right.
and you see the open cupboard.
Yes.
Yeah, that one gets me.
Okay.
When
Just the whole
The first-
ending, I was
yeah.
kind of.
I mean,
in a
I
bit of a
started
state.
the first time I watched it, I started crying from like basically the post office
Okay.
until,
Yeah.
but now usually I can hold myself together until like the very last
Yeah.
scene.
I'm surprised it's your number two. I obviously, it didn't quite make it. I had 12 to choose from. This was one of the two that didn't make it.
This is one of the ones that I knew I was going to get on. Her, Casablanca, and Brokeback Mountain were the three that I was
Okay.
like,
It is a great film. And
beautiful.
forget the fact that it's two men.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's a love story. It's gorgeous. And I agree with everything you said. And just looks great. Again, with the clouds. And also, it's kind of a Western
Gay
setting.
Yeah.
It's not what I was getting at, but,
But that's
Ang
what
Ang
it's-
Lee hasn't shot this kind of thing before.
No.
Like fields of cattle,
No.
or a sheep, cattle, and he still shoots it as gorgeously as he knows how.
This is the movie that was like, yes, Ang Lee.